Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Have you ever had one of those lifetimes where something's bugging you, but you just are too lazy to fix it? Well, I don't know if you can tell or not from the camera view, but this machine is not level. So today we're gonna level it up. And while we're at that, we're gonna give it a little bit of a lift kit because honestly, I don't like the fact that I have to bend over to operate some of the controls on this machine. It's kind of like it was built by 7-year-old girls for 7-year-old girls. So I'm gonna fix that up and make it fit me. The first thing I'm gonna do is clean this area up. I've got some chips on the floor, some buckets full of shavings and cuttings. I've got my table here. I'm gonna get this out of the way. I'm gonna clear this area right out so that I can get down and start measuring up exactly what I need to do. Now, this is a shitty floor. It's out of level by a ton. I didn't make this floor. I mean, if I had, it would have been shittier. So we're gonna fix this area up, get it clean, so we can measure this up and figure out what we're gonna do.
Now, if I can only get him to do this in the house.
So I got a few different sizes, high-speed blanks here, 3/16 quarter and 3/8. I'm just gonna see if any of these will make this level, and then I'll know over 48 inches how much slope do I have. So the floor from here to here drops 3/16 of an inch. So I'm gonna measure what that distance is. And then from here, this way, the floor is doing something different. It's actually, from this point, it's tapering down. So I'm gonna do my best to take all this into account when I design my little feet, because I know it's a long shot, but I'm really hoping all 8 of these little pedestals I'm gonna build under the frames actually touch the floor. So I've got my floor mapped all out and I've done some math. So this is a mess, clearly, but it's quite accurate reasonably. This crack in the floor, and I can show you where that crack is right here. That's the highest point of the floor in this whole area. So that's kind of like our 0. That's where we're gonna be adding exactly 2 inches. And so what I've done some quick math here, and it turns out that we have 4/1000ths of an inch drop in both directions. And so again, a little more math. By the time I get to this far end of the machine, I need to be 3/16 longer on my leg length. And then on this side of the base of this end of the machine, it needs to be an 1/8 of an inch longer than the others. This one will be exactly 2, and this will be a 32nd of an inch longer over here than the 2 inch. So here's my frames. I've got some dirty old angle iron that I'm gonna clean up a little bit. It'll end up getting painted black, so I'm not too worried about the rust and grossness. This shows the outside dimensions of my little pedestal things, and these are the legs I'm gonna cut. Now this is 1/4 inch angle iron, so where I want the 2 inch lift at the crack, this leg will be 1 3/4 long, and then this leg's a little longer because the floor is tapering down. This one will be longer yet, and this one will be, again, longer yet. And then all these surfaces across both of these should be pretty darn close to level. Now, I did do the math, and I was thinking at first maybe I'd set the saw up to cut whatever angle I needed. Well, the angle across here is actually less than 1/4 of a degree. So I can't reliably set the saw up to less than 1/4 of a degree, you know, or then even tracking which piece is which would be troublesome. So I'm just gonna cut them all flat as I can, and I'll hope that the whole machine sits on all the 8 points at one time. So anyways, long story short, my goal is for the machine to sit on as many of these 8 different points as possible all at the same time. I've also made these frames probably about a 1/4 inch bigger on the ID than the machine pedestals are on the OD, just to allow for any out of squareness, either by me or by Smithy, and a little wiggle room to allow me to actually get this thing into place. Now this machine actually didn't come with a second set of holes. That's this set back here. It came with these holes only for mounting this side of the vise. And this saw is over 30 years old. Somewhere along the way I stripped this hole out, so you can see I've made and put a threaded bushing inside this hole. So good for years to come. Here's a second threaded bushing that I made while I was making this one anyhow. I was all set up to do it, and I thought, well, next time a hole strips, I'll be all ready to fix it. So there's all our feet cut up. I'm going to move on now to cutting the angle iron up for the frames of these things. These will be on the tailstock pedestal of the machine, outer and inner, and this is the headstock end of the machine, outer and inner. So I'm mitering the corner of this angle iron frame, so I'm just setting my saw up to 45 degrees now. So there's all the pieces for my tailstock frame, and it's 4 feet, and my headstock frame, and it's 4 feet. All those pieces are cut up. Now I'm gonna do a weld on the bottom side of these seams and on the outside of these seams. And I'm gonna leave the inside flat so the lathe can sit as flat as possible in there. And then on the bottom side of these seams, I'll weld bevel them first off, and then if there's any weld sticking up, I'll grind it down flush so the feet can sit as flat as possible. Now this angle iron's filthy old, you know, rusty old angle iron. I don't really care, it's still strong. There's lots of proper meat still inside of it, but I'm gonna take this outside. It's a nice late summer day. I'm gonna do all my grinding and weld prep and deburring outside, just so I don't make a huge mess in here for no good reason and have to breathe all that in. So you guys see me working here all the time. I'm gonna use some air quotes and call this my welding table. But it really sucks. It's not a welding table. It's a pair of sawhorses with a piece of 3/16 plate sitting on top. The plate isn't especially flat. There's no way to clamp anything anywhere. This really is not a welding table, although, you know, you've seen me weld here, you've seen me solder here. You guys have seen, this is where we set different things up to display them. And I'm seriously considering getting myself a real welding table. So I've got my first one set up. Yeah, it was painful, but it's plenty close enough to square and it'll fit. So I'm just gonna tack it up on the inside. Then again, I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna do all the real welding from the outside. So I'll probably tack in 3 places on the inside, at all the corners. Flip it over, do some tacking on the outside, and then weld her up on the outside. Well, I've got both frames welded up. I just brought it back outside where the air is nice and fresh. I'm just grinding down the very tops of the welds where they stick up where I want to put the feet on. Now, I did weld bevel all these edges, so there's going to be plenty of weld left. I just need to take the high spots off so that my feet sit nice and flat. Frames are all welded up, ground flat, and I smoothed them all out. They're good to go. Now I'm going to put the feet on. So it's super important that I put the right feet in the right place because of all that taper on the floor that we talked about. So I've got my headstock frame here, my tailstock end frame here. I've got my map in front of me of the floor and how it was laid out. And I've got a picture here of where I need everything to be. Now, when I actually install this, they're going to be flipped upside down, but these will be the same as each other, these will be the same as each other, these will be the same, and so on. And so that won't affect anything. So I'm just making good and sure I get the right one in the right place. I've got all my feet in the proper place now. Just so I don't lose that, I'm going to position them all, tack them all, then I'll come back and weld them all. So there we have it. I have these all welded up. I'm gonna let them cool down for a minute. Now, as I say in all my videos, I'm not a welder, so apologies to you guys that actually know what you're doing for having to watch me butcher things like this. But inevitably, welding comes up in many of our projects, so hey, I'm getting better. So here they are all painted up. They're just finishing up drying. So now it's time to get the lathe up in the air. So step one actually is going to be to take this light down, get it out of the way. And when I first put the lathe here, I put this lifting point up on the ceiling. It's super sturdy. I've got this chain fall, weighs an awful lot, way more than I am prepared to carry up this ladder. So first I'm going to attach a block to that loop up there, and I'm going to hoist this up with a rope, and then I'll just go up there and hook it on. So this lathe has built-in lifting points. These 4 pins just slide out. So that's what we're going to lift off of.
Ooh, fancy knot.
Bowling. Handiest knot ever. So when I put that lifting point there, I just kind of picked the place that roughly I thought I would want this machine to be. And turns out I didn't exactly want it there. So you can see this lifting chain's on a bit of an angle, which is fine. But what I do have to do so that the lathe doesn't go swinging over this way is I have to secure it to that wall. So you can see I've got a couple hooks over here with a ratchet strap. And I've got some C-clamps on here. I'm going to make another little harness with this ratchet strap, and then I'm going to use a third ratchet strap to pull against those 2 points, and that'll maintain the lathe's position this way as we lift it off the floor.
Here we go. Nice and level. The height's much nicer working height. I'm happy with that. Just need to do a little fine tuning and shimming under some of these feet because all 8 of these feet aren't doing equal work. So just going to do a little shimming. So I'm just cutting out a little strip of this pretty thin aluminum. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 thou. So the feet are 2-inch square, so I've got a 2 1/4 inch wide strip, and I'm going to cut it into 2 1/4 inch long pieces, and then those will be my shims, so I can get hopefully close to all 8 of those feet doing the same amount of work. So I'm just going around with my pry bar here and finding the ones that need a little shimming. So that's a lot better already. Yeah, got that all shimmed. That's mint.
Oh,
that's rock solid.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm gonna check the headstock end, and we'll see how she is. Yeah, well, I mean, I was done with this strap that was holding it to the wall. So I just peeled that out of there. And I'm just seeing if any of these feet need a shim under them so that this thing sits nice and flat. Oh yeah, mint. Okay. Can peel all this rigging off here now. So I just have to get that chain fall back down from there. And we can call it good. I hate that ladder. It scares the hell out of me.
It's a little sketchy.
Yep. Aw,
At the end of your rope.
so to speak. Well, it's time for me to put my fluorescent light fixture back up over there. And it's heavy. It's on the heavy side, I would say, and it's kind of awkward. But anyways, here goes. Someone's flying low. Mm-hmm. Well, we're all back together now, and I couldn't be happier. It used to drive me nuts. I'd walk through the door and just look at this thing sitting there on an angle. It was driving me insane. That shimming, now it's super sturdy. Handles are much more comfortable height to work at, and yeah, I'm gonna call that a big success. So that's it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe.